già, e l'ignoro fu che il piagò. Sì, l'ignoro mio sarà, lo giurai, la vincerò. Sì, l'indoro mio sarà, lo giurai, la vincerò. Il tutto ricuserò, io l'ingegno aguzzerò, alla fin sa che terrò, e contento io resterò. Sì, l'indoro mio sarà, lo giurai, la vincerò. Sì, l'indoro mio sarà, lo giurai, la vincerò. Io sono docile, sono rispettosa, sono obbediente, dolce e amorosa, mi lascio reggere, mi fa guidar, ma se mi toccano dove il mio debole, sarò una vipera, sarò, e cento trappole prima di cedere, farò giocare, e cento trappole prima di cedere, farò giocare, e cento trappole prima di cedere, e cento trappole farò giocare. Io sono docile, sono obbediente, mi lascio reggere, mi fa guidare. Ma se mi toccano dove il mio debole, sarò una vipera, sarò, e cento trappole prima di cedere, farò giocare, e cento trappole prima di cedere, farò giocare, e cento trappole prima di cedere, e cento trappole farò giocare, e cento trappole farò giocare, e cento trappole farò giocare.
And we're live. Welcome to Music Matters with Jason Tramm. We're delighted you can join us for our unique podcast community where we explore the issues and challenges in the classical music world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. On the show, we've featured artists from the opera world, a concerto world, from the contemporary pop world, rock world, and you'll see great stories of inspiration and innovation in some of the most challenging times ever for artists. So we're delighted you can join us. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and hit that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on guests and topics. Like and share our videos on social media. It's so important. And remember to chat in questions for our guests, as we love to have these conversations and add your voices in as well. So thank you so much for joining us. We have a wonderful show for you tonight. We have Miss Janara Kellerman, an acclaimed mezzo-soprano who is active throughout the musical world, and we're delighted she can join us. Welcome, Janara.
Thank you, Maestro. So happy to be here.
Well, we've worked together for many years, and it's a pleasure to have you here tonight and to talk about your art and to talk about how you what you're doing these days.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, we've known each other. We go way, way back. I was trying to remember, and there's just too numerous productions together to really remember. But
Well, two I remember distinctly were my first Aida, my first Nabucco, and boy, that was exciting. And
that was wonderful.
And your voice is just exploded, and it was great then, and it's even better now. It's like a fine wine mezzos tend to be. And
it's true. It's true. They really do. We really do get better with age. I firmly believe that. But no, you were like my first. Yeah, that was my first foray into Verdi with you. So. Thank you.
Well, it's always exciting to discover great talent, and when you find it, it's great to come back and work with people you respect. So always a pleasure to see good friends. So tell me, let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. Why don't we start with how did you begin your artistic journey, and did you always know you wanted to be an opera singer?
Yeah, no. I mean, I grew up in Iowa, and thankfully, my mother, she started all of us at piano lessons at age 6. And I played the clarinet since 5th grade. So I had a musical upbringing, but I never I never sang, and I joined choir in high school because it was the cool thing to do to be in the show choir. That was like, you were cool if you were in
the Midwestern show choir.
Oh yeah.
That is big musical.
It was a big deal. So I joined the choir, and I think because I was just musically, because I'd been playing piano, I was kind of a leader in the choirs. And the end of high school, I was encouraged by one of my teachers. He said, maybe you should consider taking some private lessons. You have a unique voice. And that's when I started with Carla Gettle, who's a big voice teacher in Cedar Rapids. She started a lot of us that are singing now professionally. And so I went to her, and she sent me to Simpson College. It was a summer camp, opera camp. I didn't even really know what opera was. I was like, oh, sure, I'll go, And I just fell in love. Like the minute you get on that stage and you hear that music, and so they offered me a scholarship, and I just went from there and learned. And once you start, you can't go back. Like once it's in your blood and it's in your bones, it's like it's who I am. And so that was my journey. And then I did my master's, and then I moved to I moved to New York, where my real education began. When you get kind of thrown into the pond with all the big fishes. So.
And what was it like coming to the big city, coming out of Iowa and doing your training, and then coming after your master's degree to Manhattan? What was it like when you came to New York City, meeting the great artists?
Yeah, it's definitely like I moved in my first apartment. I lived with Tammy Petty, who was also in the business. We had met at Chautauqua that summer, and Sarah Routh, she was another musician, and so it's basic. It's daunting when you first get here. It's just the knowing what should be the next step is it's really like, it's about networking, talking to other artists. What do I do? Where, when, what's going on, finding the right voice teacher. And yeah, it's definitely, but I wouldn't trade it for the world, because it's really what gets you prepared for the real world, in the real business. And you have to go through the ups and downs, and you have to get through it, and it makes you a better artist. And yeah, no, I wouldn't change it for the world. So I mean, I'm very thankful that I came when I did, and I'm still here.
What would you tell you? What would you tell your young self if you could go back and say something after you've learned all these lessons? What would you say back to yourself who just came to New York?
This is an easy one. Spend more time in Europe. Like really, really, I would tell my young self to spend more time in Europe. Learn the language, learn the culture, learn that's the only way to sing this music really, is to just submerge yourself in where it was written and work with it's that language, culture, that's what I would tell young singers. Don't be afraid to just do it. Just go over there and live, and yeah, that's what I would say.
So what experiences did you have in Europe at this stage of your career?
It was later. Like, I mean, like I told you, that's my one regret. Like when I was in my 20s and when I should have been doing all that, I didn't really know then to do that. Like I was so, that's what the interesting thing is for singers, is that you're kind of told when you're in school that there's a certain path that you have to go. That there's, it's the school, then it's the young artist programs, then it's the fine management, then it's the main, and you're told that there's this path, but there's not. I mean, there are 35 million different paths that people can take to find their way. And for me, so in my 20s, I didn't do that. So it was really in my mid to late 30s that I finally got to Europe, spent some time over there, especially in Italy, and sang in the south of it. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's really, and the funny story is Maestro David Rowe hired me for Azucena. I don't know if he knows the story. He might kill me. But I was supposed to start rehearsals for that in September and of the year that we sang it. And I had never sung it before. And I was in Europe that whole summer. And I learned the role while I was in Europe, but I didn't really sing it. I just, I was in the south of Italy. I just was basically score studying, language studying, listening a lot to Simeonato. And I didn't sing much of it. And the rehearsals were supposed to start on Monday. I was supposed to fly back to New York on that Friday, and then I was going to get with a pianist. I was going to, and I decided to stay in Italy. I stayed in Italy over the weekend, stayed in Rome. I just couldn't get, and when I showed up, it was actually an experiment. When I showed up to the first rehearsal on Monday, I hadn't sung a note. I had only really studied it, listened, studied it. I hummed it. I hummed it. I knew the notes, but I didn't work it into the voice. And it was really interesting because luckily, that's where it comes with you have to be a good musician to be able to do that. Like you have to know how to read music, and you have to know. But the interesting thing was spending that time in Italy and really learning it organically. I didn't have any preconceived mind things about, oh no, here comes the high note, or oh no, here comes this phrase that I can never get through, or here. I didn't have any of that. It was literally just singing the language. It was literally just, and it was really one of my favorite performances because there was no neuroses, and it was because of Europe. It was because I spent the entire summer before in Italy learning it and you just can't beat that. You just can't beat it being in the culture. So
no, I'm with you. Every time I've gotten to conduct in Italy or in anywhere in Europe, it's always so spiritual because especially doing opera in Italy is always very, very grand, and you just feel like you're part of something special. And the people let you know immediately what they like about it. It's so visceral. It's not like a polite art form. It's like their football matches. It's just so exciting and visceral part of their culture. And,
absolutely.
And just to walk the streets and to look at the ancient sites, and I just can't get enough of Italy or most of Europe, really.
Yeah, no, I can't wait till we can go back. It's driving me nuts that we can't be there. It's just, who would have ever thought that in our lifetime, it would be just gone, and so I can't wait till we can get back there.
I bring this up a lot, but if you look at the Spanish flu of 1918, they didn't cancel a single performance at the Metropolitan Opera. So we're looking, we're looking at something once in our lifetimes, once in probably 2 lifetimes at least.
Okay.
So everything is so unique, and we're all kind of feeling our way around in the dark as artists. And it's really a challenge for everyone. And we'll as artists we'll continue to be creative, but it's really been quite shocking for everyone.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think we're, like you said, we're resilient. Artists are resilient, and that's why I think all the experiences leading up to this, all the rejection, all the walls that artists hit, on their own personal journey, I think helps prepare them for something worldwide like this, where it's like, this is yes, it's unusual, it's horrible, it's detrimental to us because like for me, I'm like, who am I? If I'm not performing, it's like, who am I? Well, but look, we've all faced major artistic obstacles in our whole journey, and we'll get through it. We will, and that's part of being a strong artist is just, we'll get through it. So
one thing I like to remind myself is that even though we may not be getting, a lot of us aren't getting paid for this, we're still artists. It's just it's not just a job. It's so much a calling and a lifestyle, and these choices can't be turned on and off. It's just who we are.
No, and for me, actually, it was reaffirmed during this time. I want to be singing, and it affirmed that for me, that this is who I am, bottom line. And so it's like, and, it's what we, it's what I've used this time for, is a lot of self-reflection, a lot of growth, and a lot of, recalibrating. So, we can go full force ahead, but with a new kind of enlightened perspective.
Have you been learning new repertoire or
Yeah. Luckily, I'm very thankful. I had 4 contracts. I was supposed to have 4 contracts during COVID. They were all canceled, but luckily they were all rescheduled. And 3 of the 4 of them are new works. So I'm working on those. And the one is the La Voix Humaine, which I'm very excited. One is the Dinah in Trouble in Tahiti, which is just so much fun. And Rosina, my first Rosina. So someone actually hired me. Actually hired a Verdiana to sing Rosina.
That's
and I'm
interesting. So your voice has always had really good coloratura and fioritura. What's it like singing the Rossini rep? We started the show with it, so obviously it's something you enjoy, but what's it like?
Oh, I love it. Like, I don't know. My heart, it's like, I'll never forget, Marilyn Horne said once, I was coaching Carmen with her, and she said, look, you're gonna sing a ton of Carmen's. It's gonna be, but she's like, one thing I always did was I made sure to always sing Rossini in between Carmen. And that's kind of what Rossini has been for me when it comes to singing Verdi and Wagner. I'm like, I keep singing the bel canto as a way to keep the voice, the agilità, the so it doesn't become too dark, so it doesn't become so heavy, and keep that sparkle. And I've always loved, and I've been kind of stubborn about singing Rossini because, I hear that a lot, like, oh, no one's going to hire you because what tenor are they going to put with you? And, and I'm just like, I don't care. I love to sing it. There will be, the hardest part about our business, I always say, arts are easier. The finance world is easier because it's numbers. You can't, you have numbers, you're successful, numbers are down. It's right there. With us, everything's subjective. It depends on the person that's listening to you, if they like you or not. Rejection, you are, like, if you know that you're an artist, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to just get yourself back up. But you also have to be willing to say, okay, so people aren't hiring me. What do I need to work on? You have to, as an artist, not be afraid to also face the reality. Okay, maybe there's something that I'm doing wrong. Maybe there's something I need to fix. Maybe there's something I need to work on, which is what's getting in my way. And I think that a lot of artists are scared to do that, and you just never stop. And it's a huge part of the career, but you just have to never stop believing in yourself and keep going, because there will be those people that will eventually say, I want you, or find whatever path you can artistically get it out there. It may not be, like I said, we're not going to all have A-house careers, but there are so many different avenues for performance these days, which we're very blessed and thankful for, that you can find a way to fulfill it without, it's up to you. And just number one, you just can't ever stop believing in yourself. The minute that happens, you might as well stop.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have to have. It's the same for conductors, of course. We are have just as much rejection, I believe, and we're all up for the same jobs, and we all know each other. It's the same in the opera world, pretty much.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's so interesting. Often the singers, I've been on both sides of the aisle, the singers don't know that maybe you have a tenor already, and then when you're casting the show, you're already casting it with some of the pieces that nobody knows. So
Oh yeah.
these are
No,
some
and
of the
that's
challenges.
honestly, that's been, I started managing about a year and a half ago. And luckily our business is such that, it was a while before I agreed to do it because I was like, oh no, I'm an opera singer. I'm a performer. I can't be a manager. But luckily our business has kind of evolved where singers are taking on multiple roles in this business, and so when I decided to get into artist management, it was very interesting to be on the other side because I learned a lot about what we as singers don't realize, which is exactly what you said. Like, just because an opera house doesn't hire you, it doesn't mean they don't like you. There's just a bajillion factors that go into having to make a decision, and so you're exactly right. It's important to remember that as an opera singer, that it's not just about your voice. There's a whole lot that goes into it.
So what drew you to the world of opera management? What kind of drew you to this idea?
Well, it was exciting. Samuele started MGA. What was it? 2000. I don't even remember. 16 or 17. So I was kind of like behind the scenes watching him work, and I was I was helping out and quietly and I really was drawn to it. Like I really loved it excited me to help artists. It excited me to bring all my years of experience and bring everything that I learned and to use it to help other artists, and it kind of just grew slowly. And then once I finally embraced it and started the whole, communicating with opera houses and the whole, I love it. It complements the performing career well because you can use all of the same skills. And, and for me, I really like helping younger artists. I like, being that person that can help them avoid some of the pitfalls that I went through, that can, it's someone that they can trust. And I don't know, I really, really love it. And then I brought on Amber Smoke about a year and a half ago as another partner. And the two of us, we're so simpatico. We're the same brain. She's tall and blonde, I'm tall and black hair, but we're the same brain. And we really built MGA into a wonderful program. And, in 2020 was supposed to be the best year for MGA. Like we had finally got, then, it's kind of like, then this happened, and we just, our heart breaks for our artists and it's a little like, you feel like you kind of are starting back at square one, but all right, it will come back. That's why I said we're strong, we're resilient. We did it once, we can do it again, so.
Yeah, and there will be as things grow again, it'll be a slow rebirth, I believe, but the humanity needs the arts. We need artists, and New York needs artists and needs musicians, and that's such an important part of the healing that we're all going to need.
Absolutely. And I know, like, I talk to a lot of people who are, patrons of the arts, and they're dying. Like, I remember my dentist. I went in for a dental appointment, and she's a patron of the Met, and she and she even said to me, she goes, if I would have given so much more money if they would have needed it for, concerts or for, like they want this music, and like another friend of mine was in Seattle and paid like $4,000 a ticket for a private performance of it's like they want the music, they want it, and you're right, it'll get there.
It's going to be an interesting road, but people who are ready and who have been preparing themselves during this time, it's going to be, I tell all my students and my people I teach, I tell them to work on your skill set because this will be over and you will have a chance to come back and, be ready. You have to be ready.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's that forced kind of like, it's that forced time. We always say the gift of time is the greatest gift ever, and the one thing to take out of this is it's that forced gift of time that you didn't think you were going to have, and using it wisely, exactly like you said, learning repertoire, learning languages, studying, like just be ready, and I hope that's what everyone's doing. It's important. So
It was so easy to be depressed because of all the shocking changes. But I think that underneath that, artists, I know for the first couple of weeks, most of the artists I've interviewed on this show have expressed like there's some sort of depression that they went through, and then how do we deal with this, and how do we move forward? And then when we realized it wasn't going to be a week or two, that everyone started exploring new avenues. Technology, embracing technology, looking for ways that they can, adapt and change and diversify what they do.
Oh, absolutely. I was very blessed. It was I think it was in June, end of May or June, but an outdoor Daniel Kleinknecht played at his piano in his apartment on the Upper East Side, and I sang kind of out the window. And it was the first time I had sung in months and performed for people. And I remember it was like there was maybe an audience of maybe 40 or 50 people in the street, and it was like gold. I mean, it was, again, like I would have never thought singing out of an apartment window with an electric piano would have been, it felt like I was on the stage of the Met. It was like, I was so happy. The people were, it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think that is what we will get from this, is a reappreciation for any opportunity to sing for people. Take nothing for granted, nothing. Anytime you get to open your mouth, and especially make music with colleagues, take none of it for granted. Like we were talking about, those rehearsals that you're just not in the mood for, like, no, would you like to not have this? No, I wouldn't, so it's an appreciation, and again, taking nothing for granted. So
all the bad hotels I've stayed in, the rehearsals when I'm exhausted, and I would trade
those home stays.
this last 6 months for any one of those.
Exactly. No, absolutely, for sure.
So now you said MGA. What's that? So you said Musica Grande Artists?
Yeah, Musica Grande Artists. Yeah,
okay.
Musica Grande Artist Management, Musica Grande Artists, MGA. Yeah, that's the title. Yeah.
How do people find out more about your people who on the roster? And
we have a website. It's www.musicagrandeartists. So hopefully you know how to spell that. MUSICA Grande GRANDE artists.com. And we have a wonderful roster right now of about, I think it's like 15 or 16 artists. We keep it very small. It's insane the amount of work that goes into managing, like we manage 15 artists, and we couldn't manage much more with 2 of us if you really want to devote the time needed for these artists, and it's insane. But but we're blessed. Like we have a wonderful roster of artists of all levels. Like I said, we have some that are still in the beginning. We have some that are very, very experienced, and it's such a joy. And yeah, we're very, very thankful for them, and it's such an honor to work for each and every one of them.
I've worked with a few of those artists, and they've always done beautiful work. And
thank you.
You have a great choice in those people, and I encourage people to check them out.
Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you.
So what are some goals as you're coming back to music? What do you want to bring to your performances when this is all over? What's it going to feel like to retake that stage? You got a little bit of that when you were at Singing to Rapids. And you've had a huge connection with the opera company in Cedar Rapids. What's it like going back home?
Oh, I love it. It's, it was that, that he's been great to me. Like I've done, my first role there, I think, was Flora in La Traviata. I did Suzuki. I did Neris. I did Carmen. And he's great. And it's wonderful to go home. First of all, the theater in Cedar Rapids, the Paramount Theater, I tell all of my friends, if you ever have a chance to sing with Cedar Rapids Opera, it's worth it just to sing in that theater. It's just the 2,500 seat old, like the old, just, it's beautiful. And for me, it's great to go home because it's like, the hometown girl coming home, and my mom, she gets to be so proud, and she's like the best PR agent ever. Ever the whole, she really, I was like, Mom, you missed your calling. You should have been a publicist. I mean, like when she's excited about something, the whole world knows about it. But no, it's great. I think most artists are happy to have that house that they can kind of call their home house. the place that they can, have a special connection to. And that's Cedar Rapids for me. So I'm very thankful to Maestro Kalenkinek and the house that they bring me back.
So your career has taken you around the world from Hong Kong to Carnegie Hall. What are some of the most memorable, your most memorable performances?
I would have to say definitely Hong Kong. That was Santuzza, and that was another last minute contract. And so it was, learning it very quickly, and just the experience over there was memorable in and of itself, because it's so different than anything I'd ever known. That was wonderful. And and anytime I sing Carmen, that I will continually evolve, and so that's always an exciting thing to revisit and go back and see how it changes as I get older. Like, I remember when I did my first Carmen at, I think it was at Des Moines. I was 31, and I'll never forget when I was talking to Don Jose and we were talking about one of our scenes, and he was like, and we were talking, we were trying to get into the nitty gritty, the psychological part. And he said to me, he was like, well, have you ever experienced something so emotionally draining that it just left you so tired and empty? And I was like, gosh, no, And he's like, well, have you ever experienced, the death of someone that, and I was like, no, and it was then that I was like, okay, I need to go out and experience some life, I need to. And so that's kind of, every time I come back to revisit a role like Carmen that I've done many times, it's very interesting to see how it changes based on what I've personally experienced and felt, and how you can bring that into a character. But so that's always fun. And a lot of performances are memorable for many different things. Sometimes it's for the repertoire, sometimes it's for the people you're with, sometimes, and like we said, again, we're very fortunate to do what we do.
We have a question from the audience from Sam from Pennsylvania, who says, are there any characters you've sung that you identify with, and why?
Good question. That's funny. I often find that I bring a little bit of myself into every character. Meaning, like, by that I mean, like, when I sing a character like Amneris, who can be, who,
a lovely young lady.
Yeah, when you look at her on the surface, she can be a little vindictive. She can be, but for me, I have a very soft. I'm very soft at heart. Like, I'm a Cancer. I'm very emotional. And so when I sang Amneris, and the reviewers even, interesting thing is the reviewers even picked up on it, is that I bring a little bit of my, I made Amneris a little more vulnerable, a little more human, a little more not as cold as ice as some people play her. And I think it's just because I can't help it.
Those shades of gray are so important.
Yeah, and so I think rather, there are characters that are more like me, like, very much. There are lots of parts of Carmen that are who I am, just because I'm a very, like, I can be kind of, without getting too graphic, but I sing too many Carmens because it's so passionate, and it's so, if that's all that you sing, a lot of times it can affect the voice. So it's sometimes, there will be a couple years where I'll say, no, I want to look at some other rep, or I want to look at something else and revisit it, but it's definitely the one that I've sung the most.
Now, your voice has been growing into the Verdi canon and some of the really exciting dramatic mezzo parts. What are some of your roles, the dream roles that you're looking forward to as you continue your career?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely eager to sing an Eboli. Definitely excited to. I am looking into the Wagner stuff too now. So I would love to do, like, the Brangena or Venus, because, it's interesting, again, also, when you look at Verdi and Wagner, even though they're dramatic mezzos, if you really look at how they're written, you still have to sing them lyrically. You still have to sing them. You still want to make beautiful sounds. And again, that's where it comes back to why I keep singing bel canto, because it's all they all work together, you know, and that's why the artists of yesteryear, that's why they sang all of
they sang everything.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer that you're able to, you know, and I still want to, and it's something that I've really tried to stay true to in my career is not being people wanted to push me into the dramatic rep right away, and I always knew I was like I'm not first emotionally ready for it, and vocally I think that I can do more justice to it when I'm a more developed singer, and so now I'm ready, and now it's like I'm excited, but I would say, yeah, I believe excited to do an Amneris again. I mean, who doesn't love
Of course.
that? And a Verdi Requiem, of course, but
Those are such exciting mezzo roles. Verdi really understands. I think one of the most exciting composers for mezzo. He's one of my favorites.
Oh, he's brilliant. Like the way he composes for a voice. That's why it's really not, like I said, if you even Azucena, when sung lyrically, it's really not as taxing on the voice. Like for me, Amneris is a very easy sing because it's not as taxing on the voice because of how he wrote it. He was very, very smart. He did, you know, and in a world where not many people understand the mezzo voice. I mean, I think the mezzo voice is one of the most misunderstood, confusing voices to a lot of people. You're exactly right. He got it. He got the voice, and I'm so grateful to be able to sing his music. Like, what a blessing.
So about your technique, how has your technique evolved as you've grown into the career and into your new roles? And has your technique evolved along with your voice?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. The main thing is losing fear. As a younger singer, you have so much fear that you're singing wrong, or that you're doing something wrong, or that you're not, and you forget about the language. You forget about the fraseggio, which also goes, you know, singing music, making music is not just about sound. You know, it's not just about the sound that there's so much that goes into it. And I think that as I get older, I lose the fear, which makes singing at all the different ranges of my voice, the top, the bottom, more powerful, more supported, more secure, more. And I think that's how my technique has changed, and not be like, I used to think, again, Arthur Levy was the first one who turned me onto Rossini, and when I remember when I studied with him, you're going to sing Wagner and you're going to sing all of this, and he's the first one that told me, no, look at Semiramide, look at the mezzo in that, and that completely changed my life, because it showed me how to sing high. It showed me how to find my upper range, and it kept the voice, you know, how to balance out the darkness and the power and the warmth of a mezzo voice, but keeping it, again, like sparkly and with agility. And so that's, I think, what I continue to develop as I get older.
Healthy habits and keeping your voice anchored to what you know and to keep it healthy. I mean, I always look at Richard Bonney and who's my favorite? So Joan Sutherland. How she was really a Wagner soprano and a dramatic soprano, but he had this idea to keep her singing the coloratura rep, and she became the dramatic coloratura and the world phenom that she became.
Absolutely, it's so important, and that's even what I tell a lot of young singers. I'm like, you know, a lot of young singers, they want to rush to sing Puccini, they want to rush to sing all this verismo, like, you know, it's beautiful music. It's beautiful, but you have to keep the agilità in your voice, and the way you do that, bel canto makes you learn how to sing, because there's nothing hiding. Papa, you know, the orchestra. You have papa, and then the voice is you know, and it makes you have to know how to sing. And so I think a lot of people shy away from it because they don't want to put in the work, and it's very important.
So let's talk about putting in the work. What advice do you have as a singer, accomplished singer, as an artist manager? What advice do you have for young people coming into the business at this very confusing and strange moment?
Good question. I would say the advice that I would give them is repertoire. Like, really don't stop learning repertoire. Learn as much entire roles as you can learn as much. Don't be content with just your 5 arias. Don't be content. Really, it's really the more you know, the better artist you'll be. It's like it's a whole it's your brain. It's a whole thing. And so singers coming in now, and I always tell young singers to not give, again, don't look at the artists to the left and the right, what they're doing. Don't compare your career to what your friend on the right is getting. It's everyone has their own path, and you have to find your own path, and you have to find your avenues and your outlets for performing that work for you. And so, I mean, I would just say, I think that the thing that gets lost in this fast-paced world that we're living in now is the ability to slow down and really study languages. I mean, that's what really makes you a great artist. I mean, that's and the audience is not stupid. The thing about the people I think take for granted about our art form is that the audience is not stupid. They can spot those artists that are up on that stage and are sincerely that really know what they're doing, and that really and they may not always be the best voice, but the audience can feel those artists that are genuine and that are really doing this because rather than for their own self-ego or their own, never underestimate the audience is also key. So.
Sage advice. Have you been keeping up with, I'm sure you have, as we all have, the developments in the landscape in New York City, especially with the Metropolitan Opera and a lot in the news these days? Have you been keeping up with all that
I mean, kind of.
politics?
I have to say, I kind of withdrew a little bit. Like I got rid of my cable about, I would say about 9 months ago. And I kind of withdrew from that. Like I really don't follow. And a lot of that was my choice. I kind of used this, again, it was my choice to use this time during Corona for my own self-reflection and to kind of withdraw, because I was very much into all that and very, very on top of everything that was going on in the world. And I chose to use this time actually to pull away from that a little bit. And it was important for me to just look at myself and look inward for a while. And so I'm sad to say I'm not probably as up to everything as what other people are.
Well, it's going to certainly be a fascinating return when we get there, because politics is going to. Well, there's going to be a lot of union negotiations and wrangling at the biggest house.
Yeah. No, I did see that, like with the orchestra and everything. Yeah, no. It's I mean, but the way that I look at a lot of that though is that I personally I don't know a lot of the inner working. I mean, you have to kind of trust that there are those people that are looking out for those involved. Me personally, I don't know the inner workings of how everything works there, so I don't like to comment on what I don't really know. But I just have to trust that there will be people looking out for those that deserve to be looked out for, and that it will be handled.
Opera's been challenging at the regional level in this country for sure. I've lived through it many times with multiple iterations as a conductor. And I've seen it firsthand how we've had a huge contraction in the regional companies, and budgets are real challenged. It's going to be interesting to see how opera remains relevant as we move forward.
Yeah, I think like as we talked about, I think that is one of the advantages that it's forcing opera houses to maybe creative that are they long before COVID have been thinking outside of the box and how to work with limited budgets or how to work with limited venues, limited space. And so I think that is what now more of the regional companies are hopefully thinking about, and hopefully realizing that, okay, maybe if we can't always produce an opera in our big opera house, how can we still perform and make money in a different venue or in a different way or in a different, I mean, personally, I hope that it's live performances. I hope that I'm one that I like I told you, I will always love live performance, but I think it's a way that people are starting to realize, okay, we need to think of how we can do this without, with a new formula going forward. So
okay, well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And how can people find out more about your work?
Oh, well, I do have a website. It's my first name, last name, so www.janarakellerman.com, and it's fairly up to date. I can't promise that it's super up to date. We're kind of waiting until we know what's going to really be on and what's not, but yeah, they can find more information about me there. There's recordings on YouTube, and and stuff. So I'm around. I've been around for a while, and I hope to be around for a long time.
Well,
So
I can't wait to work with you again,
you.
and I'm glad to hear that you're doing all this self-reflection and getting ready for that next chapter, which is so important.
I definitely am. Thank you. We're always about reinventing ourselves. Always.
We have to be.
So,
So, good night and continued success, Janara.
good night. Thank you, Maestro.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. We're so delighted you're here. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and hit that bell. Our next show will be on Tuesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and will feature Abby Cash, who is a finalist in the NBC show The Voice and is a rising superstar in the country music field. So I hope you can join us there. Thank you so much, and remember, keep music alive. Good night.